Live your life, boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Conspiracy Farm, where we don't start the conspiracies, we just add the water. And now, your host of the most state-of-the-art, most informed podcast on the interweb, I present to you Pat Miletich and Jeffrey Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for war?
Yeah, rear naked choke of Cocker Spaniel, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Bro.
Change the neighborhood up.
Conspiracy Farm. Go. Check it out.
Matty, Cinco de Mayo way. Oh, another episode for the archives. Cinco de Mayo, styly. Jeffrey Wilson, rolling shotgun, as always, with my ever faithful co-host, Pat Miletich. How we doing tonight, champ?
I'm doing good, brother. Doing good, and I am excited to finally get to talk to this man.
Well, yeah, and you've been on, I believe his show, I believe it was called The King's Court. He's got so much shit going on. It's like, I want, we got to save time with the resume here, but I'll let him explain it because he's into so much, and I love it, dude. And similar to our guest last night, Travis Cook, check out that episode. Great episode with my man Travis. Matthew is very prolific in his Facebook posts about a many number of things. The lovely ladies he oftentimes keeps company of, and oftentimes, I understand it's platonic, so I think you might have a girl, but you would definitely keep yourself tight with lovely ladies. And I always dig your insight and your post as it relates to this madness going on, which we're going to talk about today. Matthew Granahan is joining us today. My friend, how you doing?
I'm doing great. There's no better time to be on the Conspiracy Farm. I've been a fan of your show since the inception, and my God, this is the perfect time to be on here with this Corona Con madness. I like to call it the Corona Con.
Yeah, the Plandemic, baby, the Plandemic.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into it, man.
It's crazy.
Give us a little bit of, because like I said, you're into a lot of stuff, man. Pro wrestling, broadcasting, podcasting. Give us a little background on what you do, generally speaking, and what you've been up to keep yourself busy during this Con Plandemic.
Well, I've been, I had to change my lifestyle that much. And I've been traveling. I've been encouraging. We're a distributor here in South Carolina. I've been in the alcoholic beverage booze industry on the supplier side and the distributor side since college. So talk about, over a quarter century in that industry, and we're still trying to stay active, when 60% of your accounts are forced to close down.
Crazy.
It's not a great time, but we're trying to, of course you have to have some layoffs, but I've been traveling a lot and I've been picking up extra area and extra sales. You mentioned the Cinco de Mayo. I've been spending the holiday with my beautiful novia, Miss Gloria Diferente. Was originally from Venezuela. She's a big singer down there and used to sell out stadiums, and then came here on asylum. So
wow.
She kind of sees some parallels between what's been going on here in the U.S. and what went on down there, man. But as for me personally, man, I've always just tried to enjoy life, bounced around a lot, and dabbled in a lot of things. Some stand-up comedy, came out of amateur wrestling, did a little bit of MMA, nothing at the level of Pat Miletich, but competed a handful of times and coached and cornered a number of guys when I was on my severance back in 2008, 2009, early 2010. Met a great guy out at Pat's Gym in Austin, Texas, that we talked about on my show, the Prince of Persia, Kamal Shalarus, and really loved that gym out there in Austin, Miletich Fighting Systems. And I've been doing pro wrestling, stumbled into pro wrestling after college. I was at a judo dojo, and my buddy Dave was training with Killer Kowalski's school.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of just stumbled into it back in 95. And man, it was like, you never knew back then, because that was pre kind of internet and everybody. So I was his opponent. I bounced around as his opponent, and that's where I kind of learned the ropes of pro wrestling. I stumbled into broadcasting because I was a buddy of mine who was an old teammate, Rob McCraw. Give him a shout out because he got me my start. He was matchmaker for a fight promotion in Virginia that ran a couple times at Eagle Bank Arena, which is a big arena where UFC ran. And he said, Granahan, you've always had a big mouth. You never shut up. So I'm going to give you the mic, give you the stick. And it started out ring announcing and then moved into the broadcast booth. Got to broadcast with a number of great legends, King Mo, Stephan Bonner, Dan Severn, who's a good friend of mine, bouncing around at some of the more independent MMA shows broadcasting. But my core employment has always been in the booze business. I worked for a distributor out of college for 9 years up in Connecticut, and I was offered the opportunity to move down south, and that's how I kind of just bounced around as a regional manager for brewing companies, group of breweries, Magic Hat, Pyramid. I was out, and that's how I ended up out in Texas. I was working for those guys, and that's when I met Kamal, and that was a great school. And Pat, how many schools? I never figured that out because it was out there in Austin. How many affiliated Milicic gyms did you have around the country?
There was around 60, and then I had one in Greece and one in Canada also.
Awesome.
Yeah, so but I got so busy with everything that was going on with the triple jobs with networks, doing broadcasting and running the gym and trying to keep up with the affiliates and training cops and everything else. And I was just like, man, I just can't keep up. I did that for like 4 years straight, all of that stuff. And then I just said, I gotta let go of the gym. I got to stop that part of it because I'd reached my goals,
Without a doubt. Killer Kowalski, dude. That's Killer Kowalski, infamously well known for coming off the top rope and ripping off Yukon Eric's ear back in the day.
Yeah, that's a great bit of trivia.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. Yeah, and it was a crazy thing back then with pro wrestling because I never was formally trained at Killer Kowalski's school. I kind of just learned as we went. And my buddy Dave and I actually practiced a lot at the judo school. And it was kind of developed a pro wrestling style out of that was a little bit different. And, man, I'll tell you, my favorite pro wrestling match was 2017. I did some coaching for my old high school for Norwalk High, and the new wrestling coach, Joe Fernandez, asked me to come back and headline a fundraiser. So it was a pro wrestling fundraiser for the mats, and we had the same stinky old mats that they had that went from back when I was in high school. They were the old squishy, nasty mats. So
get staph infection just looking at it.
Oh yeah, gross, nasty stuff. And I got to go over there and headline that and bust a cauliflower over Chase Brown's head. And I was in the locker room after that, and I told Dan Severn was on the show with us, and I said, Dan, this is it. I'm not pro wrestling anymore. I had my first amateur match here when I was 12 years old in this gym, and this is the way to retire. But then, I got dragged back in with some fun stuff with Stephan Bonner there.
Yes.
They some of those hotties in front of you, like Summer Steel with the buns of steel, and we had a great time.
Nice.
Doing that mixed tag match. But for the most part, I'm pretty much done with actually in the ring pro wrestling. But if something cool comes up, I'll be happy.
For sure, man. Always a consummate showman. Yeah,
sensation in the ring.
Well, and I love your gimmick too, the king gimmick, etc. And hanging out with, what is it? What's Stefan's name? It's not the American Nightmare. That's Cody Rhodes. What's his?
The American Psycho.
There you go. Wow, Stephan Bonner. Well, man, check it out. I mean, obviously, we can go freaking long game talking professional wrestling all day, but I think our audience is a little bit more concerned about this fucking madness we got going on right now. The economy's collapsing. The world's literally on the brink, not just the United States, the world. They're slowly opening things up. I literally, after our show last night, Pat, I went out to dinner at a restaurant, and it was just like, it was almost like I was walking into like a museum.
You sat down and ate?
I sat down and ate, dude. It was almost like we were in like, the Field Museum or the Smithsonian, like, oh my God, an open restaurant. This is strange, right? But Matthew, I mean, give us your thoughts on it, man. I mean, why do you have that particular moniker, calling it a con? I think most people are smelling it now like a fart in the car. The reaction's not matching the threat at all. But what are your thoughts on it, man?
I'll tell you, the first thing I think is, like, who isn't worried here? And the big banks, do you think they're worried?
Mm-hmm.
No. You think the military contractors like Lockheed Martin, they're not worried. The big media conglomerates, they're not worried. Government employees aren't worried. Who's worried is individuals and small business owners. And what I like to point to is there was already a commercial real estate bubble before this. And commercial real estate is in the toilet right now. So who's gobbling it up?
Well, and it's not even just, I mean, not to interrupt, but it's not even just commercial real estate, but you're right, that was an aspect of it. Pat, we've mentioned, I mean, the whole global economy was circling the drain before this popped off. And that's what I'm saying. I think, and you tell me if you agree, that they've utilized this and piggybacked this freaking, nationalist, socialist, financialist agenda where, everybody's getting trillions on the piggyback of this virus.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. And the thing about it is, who's gobbling it up? It's the big corporations that are gobbling it up, gobbling up that commercial real estate. And you have family businesses that are scared. A lot of them are not going to come back.
No.
Because, and we deal with restaurants. And I reached out to a couple guys that own small family businesses, multiple locations for bars and restaurants. And they're telling me, like, one guy's like, my buddy Matt, he's got 7 bars in Colombia, different themes, a couple sports bars. He's like, man, I'll be lucky if I'm going to open 4 back up after this. Because the other aspect of it are their employees going to want to come back because they're getting all that unemployment money from the government now.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to come back. So I think this is by design, man. I mean.
Well, but here in Iowa, I will say this, but there will be liberal states that won't enforce this, but at least here in Iowa, and I have not checked the other states, but if people are offered the jobs back and they don't go, they lose that money. They don't get it anymore.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
Well, that's the case at least here in Iowa. So I think people need to be around the country, whatever state you're in. You need to write your representative and you say you better make this the case because this economy, if it dies like this, and we know that this was to short the markets and everything else, like you guys have said, so that the folks that already own a big chunk of America can buy even more of it, and our friends in Washington, both on the left and the right, are guilty because they're in the pockets of namely other foreign countries like China, namely that basically owns the United States now, and massive amounts of corporations, massive amounts of farmland. This absolutely needs to be reversed, and that's just got to be the case.
And what I've told people, and it's just open. Fuck it, just open. And we've had a few accounts that have done that, and I've supported them by going and having a couple brews and have an appetizer, and just fuck it, just open. And they're hiding. I had to get a haircut. And the chick that cuts my hair had to sneak me into the back of her salon and hide her car in the back.
Yeah.
And she said, leave your car at my house. We can't have 2 cars. I have to make it look like I'm just running in there to get something. Because the lady that is watching me that owns the other salon, and she's going to report me. This is ridiculous.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
Instead of having some bravery and opening her place too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's causing people to have to sneak around. Yeah. This is ridiculous. It's like we traded logic, reason, and common sense, and we replaced it with fear, paranoia, and propaganda.
And we'll never be able to pull this back, man. The mom arrested at the park with her kid. We will never be able to take this shit back, even if we get back to whatever normal we have. As we sing this "Land of the Free, Home of the Brave," equal, right, liberty, rights, or what is it? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Like that's very selective, and it could be applied very differently. You know what I mean? The guy I just saw open his tattoo shop. He has to pay his bills. He's at that level, dude. He's like, I have to do it, and they go in and arrest him, which is just insane. And even when they do slowly start opening this up per the phase, like you said, they're not going to be able to sustain it. If a restaurant with 100% or 100 seat occupancy has to open to only 50 occupancy, and then those tables have to go 6 feet apart, they're still handicapped. They still can't pay their bills. So it's a slice. It's a death by 1,000 cuts, man. Even if people do open up, it's not going to be able to be full capacity. So they're still almost fucked.
Oh, it's ridiculous. As a company, like our company, we're we're hemorrhaging, man. I mean, it affects. This is something people don't understand is the ripple effect.
Yes.
The owner of our company, he has a number of rental properties, and he's not getting paid on his rental properties. That's number one. Number two, as an importer, we're unable to get a lot of our product in, like our Chilean wines, because it's a global thing. It's going on with Chile. So we're experiencing ridiculous amounts of out of stock. 60% of our accounts are closed. So we're in the red. I mean, we're basically just rolling trucks to lose money. I try to come up with a plan to where we could at least break even or come close to breaking even. And it's becoming impossible to do it now, man. And I mean, this is sickening to me. It's sickening to me that people don't stand up for themselves. And, I think, and I shared this earlier with Pat, I have a daughter my daughter is a senior in high school, or she was. I mean, she's homeschooling now. And she's not going to have her prom. She's not going to have her graduation. Now, if that was me and my buddies when we were seniors in high school, we would be going ape shit over this.
Yeah.
And they just take they just take everything. They are so indoctrinated, and they're so weak. And I was sharing with Pat, this is my theory, and I'm going to throw this out there. See what you guys think about this, because I thought a lot about this. We were founded by young people who fought a war over tyranny. The reason that we had civil rights in this country, the reason that we had the whole civil rights movement was because you had young people who stood up against it. Now, the young people today, they don't stand up for anything. I mean, and I think that the reason for it is three reasons. I think it's that they're indoctrinated by political correctness, and they're just so authoritarian. I think it's got to do with identity politics as such a distraction, and that ties in with the political correctness. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is something that Pat brought up on my show a couple times, which I thought was great, is that these prescription drugs that they're fed from a young age because their parents don't want to deal with them. The Adderall, the Prozac, the Xanax, and then they become soulless zombies who will you could lead them right off a bridge.
Well, even if it's not because the parents don't want to deal with them, which is a part of it, but Timmy doesn't learn like Johnny. Oh, well, let's go ahead and throw him on the freaking GOP or the Ritalin or whatever, whatever it is.
Got to get it down to the lowest common denominator. We got to slow everybody else down.
And then this enters the whole Frankfurt School stuff, which we talked about, like Pat just said, just lowered to the lowest common denominator. And again, man, we've let so much slide for so long. You're right, man. The pussification of our kids, the anti-fascists are out there being complete fascists because they don't agree what you talk about. Whereas at least back in the day, the young kids were fighting for like legit shit. Hey, man, we shouldn't be having our people dying in this illegal war. Hey, we should stop, killing these people because they look like XYZ. But nowadays, the reality's been so inverted. And the kids who really all of this stuff is really weaponized for, like you said, they're just going along with it. They have no, they have no problem with it.
That's a great point, Jeffrey. And you mentioned war. It's also the media. Think about the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was protested by young people, and the whole thing was exposed by the media. And now the media goes along with every war, and young people too. I mean, their thought process, they're brainwashed. They're completely brainwashed. They're like zombies.
Yeah. Well, and it's always whatever the term is. It's always when a patriot stands up when it's not fashionable. When it is fashionable, everybody becomes a patriot. I mean, you look at people like Martin Luther King or Muhammad Ali. Obviously, I mean, they were reviled for protesting this war, and the kids, etc. And only through historical perspective and the declassification documents from then Robert McNamara, the defense head, we found out that war was based off bullshit, and everyone was right the whole time. We just had the anniversary of freaking Kent State, where National Guard shot and killed college students for just protesting, what we found to be right. But at the time, the social order and the social narrative was like, well, now, where's your mask? You're 3 feet away from me, not 6. You're trying to kill everybody. I mean, it's just like, the mind fuck continues.
And it leads them to say that you want people to die. Like if you want to stand up for your freedom, no one is saying that you have to leave your house. If you're scared, if you're a pussy and you're scared,
or have somebody that has a pre-existing condition.
Some people have reason to be scared, elderly and pre-existing conditions. But if you're just a hypochondriac, you're free to be a hypochondriac. You're free to lock yourself in your basement. You never have to go in. No one's forcing you to ever go anywhere.
Right.
And this is the thing too. And this happened early. My cousin, I grew up right outside of New York City, within 40 miles of Manhattan. Like I mentioned, high school, Norwalk, Connecticut. And my cousin is a nurse in Garden City, which is only 15 miles from Manhattan. That's in the heart of all this, where everything is going on. And she told us early on about this. And when they started hyping up, she said, what you're seeing on the news is total bullshit. She said, the people who are dying, and I'm seeing them die, these people already have a foot in the grave. And it's sad when anyone dies. She don't want anyone to die. I mean, I love my parents to death. They're in their 70s, mid to late 70s. Yeah, they should be worried, but they're usually home anyway.
Right.
And these people who have these pre-existing conditions and weakened immune systems and the elderly, they need to be worried anyway about their health and about catching other things, not just this. So essentially my cousin's message was, look, a lot of these people are on the verge of going to hospice already, who are dying. And then they say, you got to support the healthcare workers. A lot of the healthcare workers think this is total bullshit.
Yeah. And why is that message not resonating? Why? I mean, I guess people are just kind of lazy and the information out there is so crazy. Is it crazy that so many less people are dying from cardiac arrest and pneumonia and, all these other ailments that normally they die of, flu, but all of a sudden everything is attributed to COVID-19 or corona? And they even have said that they're cooking the numbers or at least making every death be corona. I mean, that's so insane. And I mean, again, if people could just catch on to how this is bullshit, yeah, it sucks if people are dying, but like, wow, we grind the whole global economy to a halt because a fraction of the people on the planet are dying, but that people die every fucking day from this or that, but we don't.
And that's the thing that I've said, I posted it on Twitter and Instagram. I said, basically, I'll pull it up because I don't want to misquote myself, for God's sakes. This is just I've just had it with this. So here's what I said: the premise that your life is somehow more important than the life of our nation proves you're a bunch of self-absorbed, pretentious. Wake from your slumber, Americans. We are at war. And so I'm just not going to use a filter in this. And again, This is not aimed at the people that have pre-existing conditions and everything we've talked about. Stay home. But the rest of you, the fact that the rest of this country is following these orders for fear of, lawsuits and everything else and fines from, look, man, if everyone opened their businesses, what is the government going to do? The government's can't do shit because everyone's disobeying the order. Don't participate in these unconstitutional orders. Right. Just don't do it. Yep. We're done. We're done worrying about catching, a flu, catching a virus. We're done with it, man, because we're killing our own country by not to work. We're killing our own country. People don't realize that there's famine coming. They're already rationing beef up here in Iowa. For God's sakes, they're rationing beef in Iowa. Trust me, your ass is going to be out of beef long before we are.
Right. Yeah.
Wendy's stopped serving burgers. Wendy's isn't serving meat now.
That's because it's not meat, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard with the 900 people who basically were snitches down here in Missouri had their snitch record publicized somehow, some way. Somebody hacked, or there was some sunshine law or something down here where 900 people down here who snitched on other people for not following the rules are fearing retribution because, they've been outed as snitches.
Snitches get stitches.
Well, that's not necessarily true anymore. Snitches get rewards, apparently, according to Gavin Newsom out in California. That's just like so insane.
You know what it is, guys? And Pat, and it was great to have Pat on the show. My show when we had that episode about gun rights and gun control, and I would use a similar quote here. I always say, gun control is not about guns; it's about control. And coronavirus is not about a virus; it's about control.
Precisely.
Right.
Well, and to know they've planned this for so long, and again, they're using this to piggyback their transfers of wealth, their whole reshaping of the economic system globally. They're using, this coronavirus for it. I mean, we're seeing lights in the sky from Elon Musk's whatever it's called, the Skynet, not Skynet, but whatever it's called, the 5G, the Internet of Things. It's going on right around us. And soon we'll just look at ourselves like, wow, remember we allowed this basically shit that they were going to do anyway go down under this horseshit virus. But again, we talk about it all the time, and give me your thoughts, man, whether it's 9/11 or that level of fear-based conditioning that they always use. Like you said earlier, we gave up common sense and all that shit a while ago because of the same word we all been bringing up, fear. Fear of being in trouble or even fear of catching the virus. It's all fear-based.
Fantastic quote from Benjamin Franklin is fear is the foundation of most governments, and it always has been.
Yeah. They've always used some measure of false narrative to call, not just call the people, but to gather the people and to get them basically, under control and to do what they want. And it's just what we keep saying, man, how quickly this has happened. I mean, everything has really turned upside down in almost less than 2 months. And like we said last night, and Pat has been fired by anybody. And they've just basically locked down the planet.
Oh, unbelievable. And it sets that precedent because they've already planted the seed because they're saying there's going to be another epidemic coming around the holidays. They've already.
Yeah. CNN's already putting that shit out there.
They all, even Fauci. I mean, it's almost genius. I mean, whatever. It's all wickedly genius, but we go through it. It's not as bad as we thought. We try to get back to work. We think we get back to work, and then it hits again, and then we're right back to fucking square one. And God, again, man, I don't think this is even sort of over, man. Like Pat was saying, and it's even crazy to think that, Pat, that they're rationing beef in Iowa. If Iowa's doing that, Maine, Connecticut, all you non-freaking cattle-growing states, buckle the fuck up, dude, or become a vegetarian.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
or
they're plowing crops under right now. There's nobody to pick the crops because they're terrified, because most of them are immigrants. They're terrified they're going to miss and die. Just all staying at home.
Yeah.
Or
everybody's lost their biscuits, man. This is nuts. But isn't it crazy though that so many people it's so easy to manipulate. I mean, you guys were ahead of the curve on that with your show. You'd be the conspiracy farm, but aren't you even surprised at how few people, like, if you make a post and you're just critical, everybody jumps down your throat. I mean, I don't know if you guys experience that, but everybody jumps down your throat.
Dude, I have experienced and Jeff has experienced so many haters, dude. It's incredible. But there's a lot less of them today because we told you what was going on before it happened. We told you over a year ago that the freaking economy was going to collapse this spring.
Yeah.
Been saying it forever, man. Yeah. And all kinds of other stuff that we've said over the years that ended up being true. And everybody had to eat crow on.
You can't have the yin without the yang, man. What's that Newtonian law of motion? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I don't trip on it, dude. I just try to do what we do and stay in our own lane.
Well, I'm a heel, man. I love, and I love giving shit back to people, and really, I could go from 0 to 100 to people, and sometimes they can't handle it. I love doing that shit because that's, I've always loved to be booed. I love to be hated.
Well, and that's the thing. What do they say? I mean, cheer me or boo me. You know, what I fear is indifferent. You know what I mean? If you're just like, whatever, who cares? But as long as you're getting that emotion out of it. But something you just said, dude, and I was saying, you know, or become vegetarian in these certain countries that don't produce cattle, or learn to hunt, like you said.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of Graham Hancock, and not to completely side the conversation, but he was saying, 12,500 years ago, when these huge cataclysms happened that really destroyed a lot of kind of the old civilization, the people who were able to keep going and learned and were able to survive were those people who had those skills, those hunter-gatherer skills. Yeah. So I just implore people, man, as much as you can, you know, whatever stage of the game it is, become more self-sufficient, because the more self-sufficient you are, when shit does really hit the fan, and, you know, it sucks for other people when the trucks do go down, or the water supply goes down, or electricity, you have solar. You know, it's kind of interesting the last couple decades, these discovery shows like we've had on Les Stroud, or these, you know, Naked and Afraid, these shows that are really trying to teach people how to become self-sufficient. You just don't see it any much anymore, but I think there's a lot to be learned from those shows.
Yeah, man. Myself personally, right after I graduated college, I wanted to go like 2 years and try something to where if I wasn't going out to a restaurant, everything I had at home was basically trying to be a subsistence fisherman and hunter. And it wasn't that hard to do. You know, of course, I was in an area where there were a lot of deer and wild turkey, you know, but and trout fishing was good, but it's not that hard to do. But I think beyond that, because of the economy, the thing about it is if everybody does that, if everybody becomes self-sustaining, then you're going to kill all these businesses. I want the businesses to come back. Right. In full. I want our bars and restaurants to flourish.
Oh, no, without a doubt. And it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. No, you're absolutely right. In the normal world we live in, contribute to your economy, keep that machine going. But, you know, like we all have fire insurance, home insurance, life insurance, that when that shit hits the fan, you need that contingency plan. And a lot of people don't. Yeah. And like Pat was saying, you know, it's not just about us being right or being vindicated, but so many more people are seeing now that shit can get as bleak and as dark as we oftentimes say it can get. So, you know, whether it's, Hurricane Sandy or earthquake this or the grid goes down or whatever, it's we're seeing now more than ever the potentiality of things can go completely fucking sideways overnight. And if you're not ready for it, things can get really bad for you, Lord of the Flies type shit.
Yeah. Great movie.
Yeah. Something that I said, it kind of just jumped into my head, you know, these meat shortages, and we knew that this was coming. And it kind of just jumped into my head. I was so mad. I was like, what can I do? It's like, I'm too old to join the military. I'm too, you know, what the hell do I do? You know, besides, I can't sit there and rant on Facebook and Twitter all day about getting up and opening your business. And I said, there's a solution. We all need to play a part, and bitching on social media is not it. So I decided, you know, unless you give me a job slinging booze, I'll do that until I go back to doing my broadcasts or do it part-time. But I said, well, there's a food shortage. There's a meat shortage already. Shit. So I called up Tyson Foods in Joslin, Illinois, across the river, and said, hey, man, here's the situation. I'm just sitting here at home thinking, you know, I'm not doing my broadcasts and stuff, but I'm a pretty able-bodied guy and, fought for a living, and I'm pretty strong. You know, what do you guys running at percentage-wise? And they're like, you know, maybe 50%. And I said, well, I mean, can I come over there and apply? And she said, well, you apply online. She goes, but yeah, that's actually, that's awesome that you're doing that. And I just want to do it, not because I'll do it forever, but if I have to, I will, to pay the bills, of course. But until I go back to work doing broadcasts, I got to do something to at least show these people not to be afraid, man. We can't be afraid. And again, my life is not worth the life of my nation. Anybody that thinks that your life is so special, that it's worth killing your fucking nation for, We really don't have much use for you. We don't have much use for you because you don't serve a purpose. If you wouldn't die for this nation to keep it going and turn it around, and it needed turning around a long time ago, I can tell you that. We know certainly the politicians need to be cleaned out, but I'm just saying, man, that's what I came up with today. I'm like, I guess I'm going to go freaking cut meat or be a maintenance guy over there or do something to help out.
Yeah. And that's a great skill too, butchering. And that was one thing like I learned through hunting when my dad was not just field dressing an animal, but also the butchering aspect is a great skill to have. And something that I thought of, and this is something that I throw out there to you guys. Like, when has our government ever cared this much about human life? That's just so bizarre. Like, a couple things, I know you guys are keen on all this, but some people may not even know. Just look at recent times. Like, after Hillary Clinton had Gaddafi offed, Libya, the bedrock of their economy was black African slavery. We never cared. We didn't care about that. With the Saudis, we assisted the Saudis in a genocide in Yemen, recently.
We've sold them hundreds of billions of weapons as well.
Yeah.
And they supposedly on paper did 9/11. Yeah. Well, and that's an important thing too, man, because, I get it. Everybody has their tribe they want to represent. But if you look at history, man, and especially recent history, and I'd say the last maybe 150, 120 years, this shit is ran by eugenicists. And they've never cared. You know what I mean? They have no problem biting tens of thousands of people to further their agenda, whether we were talking about the Vietnam War, whether we're talking about 9/11, whether we're talking about these pandemics. They don't care, and they never have, like you said. And people just need to wake up to the fact that it goes so far beyond racial shit, right, left shit, even class shit. I mean, class shit is a big part of it because that upper class is what's implementing these agendas and these narratives that we have to deconstruct. But I'm telling you, dude, this is, I don't know how familiar you are with Agenda 21, and we talk about it a lot. I mean, I've said even before this popped off, and I hate to keep saying this shit, when Pat and I have talked about this, I'm like, even the divisions we had leading up to the 2020 election, racial, political, religious, etc., it was a freaking powder keg. And they've added this new level of division. And I'm telling you, moving into this, it's going to be next level. I mean, even if we have an election, which will be unprecedented. So, I mean, I think a lot of this, and I never, again, before this, they have to get rid of the old to bring in the new. I don't know if it's going to be Georgia Guidestone number type shit, but I'm telling you, this agenda means getting rid of a shit ton of people, and the people that are left, it's almost going to be this subtle meld with the machine, AI, all of this. I mean, it's just so next level, and it goes beyond so much of the shit we fight about, which I find frustrating.
Yeah, it's crazy. And let me ask you guys, what do you think? Why do you think that Trump's kept this? I call him Dr. Fucky. I call him the evil Dr. Fucky. Why do you think he's kept this guy around? Because, I mean, obviously he's kind of this guy's like a thorn in his side, and Trump's never been able, Trump's famous words are, "You're fired." It's kind of shocking to me that he's kept this guy around for so long.
Matthew, as a professional wrestler, you should know a work when you see it. Donald Trump is the master of the work. He taught Vince how to be Vince. He taught Vince McMahon how to do Vince McMahon shit. The guy's been a master at the media. And when we look at these public proclamations of, oh, it's Trump versus, like, they're always, even Republican versus Democrat, we think they're against each other. But fucking Harley Race went in the back in Starrcade 83 or whatever it was and had a beer with Ric Flair and was like, dude, that was a great fucking show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what they are masters of, making us think that there is some actual division between them. I mean, there might be subtle divisions. Again, I think they're all gangsters. Like I say, it's the Corleone versus the Tatalias, Barzinis. They're all fighting. Sure. They're all fighting over the block, but the block happens to be the freaking globe. And so, as many people have said, there is an internal kind of war going on. But at the end of the day, they're all just trying to slice out their chunk of the pie of the military-industrial telecommunication pharmaceutical complex, bro, which is going to be running, which is running everything.
Now, but Pat, I know when you were on my show, and it was a while ago, it was a couple of years ago, you were a big fan of Trump at that time. What are you thinking now with Trump as things have kind of unfolded?
Well, I mean, at that time, I mean, I said, there's things that I don't agree certainly with him on, but at that time he was showing colors of, the guy that was who he said he was, the Syrian deal when they were going to hit Syrian, the supposed chemical weapons attack came from a Syrian air base. And so Trump had phoned ahead, get off the air base because we're sending 67 Tomahawks your way, and just, go ahead and, just get off the base so you don't get killed. And that the Russians are going to go, hey, all you Syrians might want to come with us, right? So Trump was trying to make it look like at that time, in my mind, to the globalists, okay, he's towing the line, he's flexing the muscle for us a little bit, here and there. And there were several other things, the situation with Iran. There were tons of false flag attacks from Iran where they were, planting explosives above the waterline on oil tankers, a drone attack on a Saudi a refinery. There were explosives detonated on a pipeline, and Trump didn't attack them. So that was something that I was thinking, well, he recognizes these are deep state false flags, and he's not falling for it. Now, with this China situation, it's a little different. It's a little different because I know now from reading a little bit and then getting intel from some current military folks that send me stuff on a secure line that we've moved massive amounts of equipment, obviously, into the South China Sea. So, look, here's the deal. If Trump is not who he said he was, we are already toast. We're already toast because he has sold us out, and all of our politicians have sold us out. And China, well, pretty much owns the rest of the country, more than the percentage they already own. And they do. We already know that there are a lot of politicians that are in Chinese corporations' pockets, and it's disgusting. It's disturbing. So if Trump is who he said he is, then we've got two scenarios. Trump is going to say all Chinese corporations and frankly, all foreign states that are technically enemies of ours, no corporations in those countries can own American corporations like Smithfield Meat Processing, along with the 2,000 farms that company owns in the United States, being owned by a Chinese company. So he'll tell them, you have to divest and sell to American companies, or we're going to be in a war because we've moved so much equipment over there. So is it going to be a situation where somebody blanks? I don't know, man. I don't know. But we're looking at either living on our knees, if he is who he says he is, or dying on our feet potentially in a war with China.
Yeah, and I'll throw this out there, and I kind of take everything you hear with a grain of salt. But this was something that my father was telling me. He said, what do you think of this? China owns over $1 trillion of our debt.
Yeah.
And what my dad threw out there, he says, maybe Trump is stringing this thing along and as a way to blame China for it and default on our debt by destroying our economy.
That could be, right now what the EU is forgiving the debt of a bunch of the countries in the European Union. The European Central Bank is going bankrupt. The Fed is going bankrupt. Is Trump doing this on purpose to bankrupt, the Fed and the European Union banks and have a reset? I don't know. I don't know, but I know that the Fed is going bankrupt. They just released another, what was it, $3 trillion today or yesterday or whatever. It's madness. It's absolutely madness. So you can't print money like that and not have hyperinflation.
Yeah, and that would kind of be the argument that Trump, this is like a chess move, on Trump's behalf. I don't know if I'd buy into that or not, but
dude, honestly, I'm not a Trump person myself. I said he was a fucking gangster, and I'm not saying hopefully you don't think that way, but that kind of rationalization and still holding on hope that this is not only the Lord and Savior guy, Emperor Trump, and he's doing
new clothes.
He's doing all of this as some kind of big move, as opposed to just the blatant reality on your face that he's not only not draining the swamp, he's of the swamp. You know what I mean? These Stanley Fishers, your BlackRock, look into it, man. He's surrounded by the swamp. I mean, they made him almost like they made Obama in a different fashion, but he was beholden to the establishment. Trump is beyond. I mean, man. Again, look up BlackRock and who all owns it.
Yeah, I mean, it's and you guys know that better than anybody. People become attached to politicians just like they are to sports teams,
without a doubt.
And they think, my politician can do no wrong, and they're always come up for issues. But I just kind of wanted to throw it out there because my dad is one of the guys. It's he loves Trump so much that I think maybe he kind of get blinded, by that.
It's the same again
on all sides.
It is, yes. The cult of personality of that embodied Obama is the same thing that embodies the. And again, this is they know what they're doing. They are the social engineers are the masters of the work. Whether it's Davos or the Bilderberg Group or Club of Rome, this is the shit they talk about. They're playing the chess game of 10, 20 years ahead, while we're reacting moment to moment, thinking this fucking guy who's just clearly proven himself to be. I mean, they're all politicians anyway, but in my opinion, the referendum on Trump is definitely what it is right now. I mean, it's like to implode the global economy, and especially the economy and small businesses, and you're still maybe a white hat because I don't even know how you rationalize it at this point.
It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it doesn't.
And
make
it
sense
doesn't
to
matter.
Me
and honestly, it doesn't matter because the global reset is fucking everybody. Race, creed, color, economic stratification, everywhere. That's why it makes it so much more frustrating when we do the whole no, I'm telling you, Matthew, freaking Ricky Steamboat's going to beat Macho and fucking, the rest of it. It's like you're arguing about a work situation.
Yeah, they're already on the same team. Now, what do you guys, speaking of that, what do you guys think about the upcoming election and with the Democrats and the DNC? Because, I mean, Biden's kind of talk about somebody who's lost their biscuits. Biden doesn't seem to know where he is half the time.
It's funny you say that because I was talking to a guy who's a former SEAL today, and he goes, Trump, do you see him in front of the Lincoln Memorial? Talking about they've been harder on me than Lincoln. He's the ultimate heel.
Yes.
He's the ultimate heel he's the alpha heel of all of it. What movie is that? How to Train Your Dragon, and they go to kill that big massive dragon, it's like he's the alpha of the heels, so he's so it was just, and he goes, what fucking asshole would say something like that, right?
He's a master heel. He's in the WrestleMania WWE Hall of Fame. I was just watching last night. He clotheslined fucking Vince McMahon during a WrestleMania and started dropping some freaking mud bones on him, dude.
Shaved his head.
It's fucking. And this is the president of the United States. This is what's so inverted about reality and so crazy. So it's like when I see him talk, I mean, he's just playing a role. They all play roles, but he's so good at what he does. He's a great comedian too. He's really funny.
He did clothesline Vince McMahon.
Fuck yeah, dude. Like you said, shaved his head.
Gave him a little grounded pound.
Dude, start dropping the dogs on him. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. That's the absurd. And then they go on to have The Apprentice. I'm like, this is anyway. I mean, it almost doesn't even matter. But the gravity of what's happening, guys. Whether it's we're in a global pandemic and possible global famine. And when this money runs out, when everybody's little bit of unemployment money comes out and even the dollar starts failing and those jobs that we talked about, they're gone.
Well,
and they're releasing criminals so they don't get COVID or whatever, but you're arresting mothers and guys surfing. Like it's wacky world right now, man.
Well, that's another thing too, that that might be a work. Because they've talked about releasing criminals, but do you know any states where they actually have done it?
I know St. Louis they have.
Have they? Yeah, because this is one of those things in South Carolina. There was a lot of talk about it, and I talked to my buddy Justin that was prison guard. He said this is all kind of bullshit. They haven't actually done it, but you kind of hear about it.
It's insane. Hey, just a note here, Patrick J. I know you got a slide. You are booked on another program right now. Do you want to go ahead and say a little greetings?
I'm good as far as I was just going to point out that the governor of Maine passed the mandatory vaccine proclamation today, dude.
What?
Oh God!
So that's going to start kicking off. That's going to start kicking off some violence right there. Because I said today, and I used Billy Carson's line because it stuck with me so well. Was if you come at me with a syringe, I am going to send you back into the the reincarnation cycle?
Yeah. I'm gonna help facilitate, basically, help you get back into the reincarnation cycle. Great freaking line.
Yeah, but
And one last thing, I mean, you guys, we didn't talk about Sweden, and I thought that was what we should have done if we had deference for our founding principles.
Yeah.
And true, the true herd immunity. But yeah, man, I just wanted to tell you too before you go, Pat. Thank you so much. This is on my bucket list to be on your show because I love your show. And
it's been
also,
an honor, buddy.
Pat, also before you go, it's also on my bucket list to call some fights with you. And I talked to Mike Karamiko, one of the MMA small promotions that I work for. Bonner's called some fights with me there, and he said he would absolutely love to bring the Croatian sensation in as the third man in the
That would be a blast. Yeah, that would be a blast, man. I'd love that.
Yeah, for the heavyweight tournament in Vegas, that they had that. Unfortunately, like everything else, has been delayed. But when that gets rescheduled, I'd love to have you out there.
I'm down with that, brother.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I'll sign off and let you guys finish up and go do this other show and pump the conspiracy farm a little bit.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, champ. Love you, brother.
All right, guys. Take care.
As always, the sensation joining us. But yeah, man, Matthew, I mean, I don't necessarily want to keep you much longer, bro. Anything you want to throw in and shout out where people can follow you? Because I know you have a very significant online presence that you want to keep pumping out there.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I want to thank you again for having me on. And I also want to thank the show that Stephen Bonner and I just on last week, the Hannibal TV. That podcast is great. It has all the old pro wrestlers and fighters on there.
He kills it, dude. He freaking it's almost better that I don't know. You know, our lives go in different ways sometimes. I know he was trying to get that WWE contract and went sideways with his business with Abdullah the Butcher, etc. But man, he's carved out a ridiculous niche. I've watched so many of his interviews and it's cool because he pumps them in like little chunks. I mean, it kind of makes you, wait for the next one type thing. But yeah, dude, Pat was just on there too, right? Yeah,
he was just on there, and he has me. Hannibal has me do my little commentaries on different things and kind of heal it up, and pretty heated on there. And that was I started that whole thing with the arm wrestling guy with Devin Larac, and that was the other thing. I'm supposed to be in that. I'm taking on this Jonathan Laba guy in arm wrestling in Canada. That got canceled too because of coronavirus.
Of course.
So everything. I mean, dude, our whole lives are on hold. And
it's crazy.
Dude, do you wake up in the morning and just say, "What the fuck"?
It takes me a second, dude. Yeah, because I've been drinking way too much, so I have to wake up and be like, "Oh, what the fuck's going on? Where am I at? Oh, yes, I'm locked in home." It's absolutely insane. It does take a second and then when you wake up, you're like, "Fuck, it is. This is real."
Yeah, man, I'm gonna go back to brew here. I switched it up and had a couple coffees. I'm gonna go back to beer, but I wanted to get a little energy jolt.
I figured. Yeah, I saw you were doing a little Corona Special or Corona Premium a little early today, but that's all right, man. It's all quite all right. It is Cinco de Mayo, and I always like to get my head right before we do the show anyway. So I ain't mad at you. It's like Planet Fitness, the judgment-free zone, brother.
Cinco de Drinko. Yeah.
And we will continue it. Yeah, man. So, like, again, did you any websites or what do you got going so people can come, Twitter or whatever you want to be followed?
Sure. Check out millionairefightclub.com. I've been do the broadcasting for those guys when they come back. When they come back on, and I do all of his kind of like marketing and announcements and stuff. Check me out on Facebook, Matthew J. Granahan. You could follow me on there. Instagram, king.of.connecticut. We don't do my show King's Court anymore. I'd love to do it again, but we kind of had a long run and had some great episodes. But I did it with a broadcaster out of Chicago named Brian Snow. He was a baseball announcer and morning show host, and he kind of owns all the content. And I tell you, it shows you how scumbags a lot of promoters are. I was working for a fight promoter, and it was when I was working for Bonner before this was 864 Fighting Championships, and they didn't want to fly Bonner in for this one show, supposed to be in Myrtle Beach. So they had my producer and co-host buy all this equipment so that Bonner could broadcast remotely out of Las Vegas. And then they decided on a whim, because one of the owners, Roy Kim, was out there in Vegas hanging out with Bonner and partying with him, that, hey, we'll just fly him in anyway. And then they stiffed Brian with all the equipment. Oh. And our relationship kind of, I think, went south a little bit after that. He never really said why, but we kind of stopped doing the show, and the archives were up, and they're not up anymore. They're like down now. So
snaps.
Yeah, so I mean, we did all these great shows. We had Pat was on a couple times. We had started out, the first one was an hour of comedy with Dan Severn, because he and I did a little stand up together. And that's another thing, if people want to get some laughs, I roasted Dan back in the fall. They can go on Hannibal TV and watch my roast of Dan Severn.
Well, yeah, I tell you, man, with everybody having more downtime, like people are just absorbing content. So now it's like there's no better time as any to fire up any kind of online content you might have had, or even just start out some new stuff, dude. Because it's
man. And if people want to get some good TNA and enjoy some good pro wrestling, they can watch that mixed tag match I had for Legends and Vixens. Also was on Hannibal. It's if they type in like UFC Bonner intergender, it'll come up, even though it's not technically an intergender match. Right. That's the way he put on there on Hannibal, and they can watch my commentaries on there. I got numerous commentaries, hopefully get some laughs, and I got a lot of my stand-up comedy stuff on YouTube. And you can still find the old episodes of my show on the Apple thing.
Yeah, iTunes.
Yeah, if you look up King's Court, but it's not all the episodes. There's quite a few, unfortunately.
Yeah, give up a few to the old boy. But yeah, I mean, that, like, again, man, you stay busy, which is super important, man, especially right now. What do they say, man? Idleness is the devil's playground, and there's nothing but idle going around right now. So it's good to stay busy, bro. So, again.
And one last thing, Jeffrey.
Yeah, man.
Check out my girl, Glory Differente. She's been here waiting for me as I do this. She's a singer, and she got some of her old videos are on there, and she's got a new video that's going to be coming out that the MillionaireFightClub.com President Mike Caramico has did for her. She's going to have a new video coming out here in the next month or so.
Nice.
So it's all in Espanol.
Yeah, shout out to your gal, man. It's good, man. That's what's up. She's packing stadiums out in Venezuela, dude. Definitely give her some love. But again, man, down the line, dude, we definitely want to get you back on, because I mean, as this plays out and you kind of having the pulse on, a little bit of what's the ebb and flow of restaurants, et cetera, get some little insight on how that's just affecting small businesses, et cetera, from your standpoint over there on the East Coast, man. We would love to get a little update from you and catch up with you and see what you're up to.
And let's hope, Jeffrey, that the next time I come on and we talk, everything will be fully opened.
Yeah,
including sporting events.
Yes,
and we can go back to normal. I don't know if that's going to happen, but
quote unquote normal. Yeah, we'll make it happen, dude. I mean, change is the immutable law of the universe, and human beings are very adaptive to change. But, it's one thing when it changes organically and naturally, and it's another thing when people force bullshit on you to change, to really artificially change, what's going on. And that's what we're seeing now, because it's affecting millions, hundreds of millions. So again, like, you're right, man. I hope next time when we wrap, it's all good. So Matthew Granahan, I thank you so much, my man. Thank you again for your time. Peace and so much love, guys. Stay tuned. There'll always be more.